The GOAT debate usually centers around pocket passers, Brady, Manning, Montana, but there's a new category of quarterbacks rising, the ones that can beat you with their arm and their legs.
Oh, is he something?
Quarterback sweep with blocks in front.
Unbelievable.
They've shattered records and completely changed how we think about the position. Between them, they've scored more rushing touchdowns than many Hall of Fame running backs and driven defensive players crazy with their scrambling.
He's one man that we tried desperately to end his career. We tried desperately to get rid of him.
Let's break down the 10 most mobile quarterbacks to ever step onto an NFL field.
Rodgers tiptoes out of trouble, and he's going to run it. Still on his feet inside the 20, the 15.
When people talk about Aaron Rodgers, they often focus on the arm talent, the back shoulder throws, the Hail Marys,
He turned 32 yesterday. Does he have a vintage?
the impossible completions. But what made him truly special was his ability to extend plays. His 3,510 rushing yards ranks 10th all-time among quarterbacks, and his 35 rushing touchdowns put him in elite company. Rodgers doesn't just scramble to run, he scrambles to destroy defenses' carefully laid plans. That slight hesitation, that subtle step in the pocket, that ability to roll out and reset, it all adds up to a quarterback who can make magic happen when plays break down. His most iconic plays often come after buying those precious extra seconds, letting his receivers work free before delivering strikes that defy physics. That combination of mobility and accuracy set a new standard. He's one of the most mobile passers ever, but our next quarterback takes that same scrambling prowess and adds a whole lot more power. Josh Allen is the most physically imposing dual-threat quarterback in the league today. With 3,771 rushing yards already under his belt, the Bills' signal caller sits at 7th all-time, but it's how he gets those extra yards that sets him apart. At 6 foot 5 inches and 237 pounds, Allen doesn't just run past defenders, he runs through them. His 55 rushing touchdowns already rank 2nd all-time among quarterbacks, and he's nowhere near done. When he breaks the pocket, defenders face an impossible choice. Try to tackle a player built like a tight end, or watch him launch missiles 60 yards downfield on the run. And those designed quarterback runs near the goal line have become Buffalo's most reliable offensive weapon. What makes Allen truly special is how he's evolved from a raw talent into a complete quarterback. In the early days, he was criticized for being reckless, for seeking contact when he should slide, but he's turned those same instincts into his greatest strength. Now, every broken play is an opportunity. Every scramble is a chance to change the game. Whether he's hurdling defenders in primetime, stiff-arming defensive ends into next week, or throwing darts on the run, Allen has become the NFL's ultimate dual-threat weapon at the quarterback position. Speaking of making the impossible look routine, our next quarterback has redefined what we think possible on a football field. Patrick Mahomes doesn't have the rushing stats of others on this list, just over 2,000 career yards on the ground. He's not fast, not particularly quick, nor is he a strong runner, but no quarterback in history has used mobility to their advantage better than Mahomes. Seemingly every key moment when KC needed 2 yards in critical situations, Mahomes got those 2.5 with his legs, not to mention the circus acts. I mean, just look at the 33-yard scramble against the 49ers in Week 7 of the 2024 season that seemed completely impossible until it wasn't. But when Mahomes escapes the pocket, the real fun begins. He's turned broken plays into an art form, leaving defenders and audiences wondering how he did it. The term Mahomes magic has become so common in NFL broadcasts that it's almost cliche, but there's really no better way to describe it. That iconic touchdown pass against the Buccaneers where he spun away from a tackle and flipped it into the end zone is one of the best plays you'll ever see. In a league full of mobile quarterbacks, Mahomes has created his own category, the magician who can make throws from any platform, at any angle, while moving in any direction. Before Mahomes made mobility look like magic, another quarterback in red set the standard for scrambling success. But first, if you've enjoyed the video so far, please scramble and hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps a small channel out. Steve Young's 4,239 rushing yards ranks 6th all-time, but forget the numbers. You need to see his runs to believe them. The former 49er turned chaos into creativity with scrambles that look like they belong in a cartoon. His 49-yard touchdown against the Vikings remains one of the greatest quarterback runs ever, as he weaved and bobbed through the entire defense before collapsing in exhaustion in the end zone. Young's 43 rushing touchdowns ranks 3rd all-time among quarterbacks, proving he could finish drives as well as extend them. But what separated him from other mobile quarterbacks was his perfect balance of reckless abandonment and a calculated risk. Sometimes he'd sprint for a first down, other times he'd roll out and launch a perfect spiral downfield, but he'd always seem to make the right choice at the perfect moment. Following in the footsteps of Joe Montana, he proved that mobility could be more than just a last resort. It could be a weapon that made everything else in an offense more dangerous. Still, he's only 7th on our list because in today's game, the modern quarterback has evolved, adding a whole new element of athleticism to the game. And one of the best examples is the Roadrunner himself. At just 5 foot 10 inches, Kyler Murray brings a different dimension to quarterback mobility. With 2,792 rushing yards already in his young career, when he breaks approach the pocket, it's like watching a video game character with the turbo button held down. His celebration from the 50-yard line on that touchdown run in Week 5 of the 2024 season showed just how untouchable he can be in the open field. Murray's Houdini-level escapability is constantly on display, like this play against the Rams, creating time to find Marvin Harrison Jr. downfield after a scramble that left Rams defenders grabbing at shadows. One of his most iconic plays is the two-point conversion against the Raiders, where he covered what seemed like 100 yards to gain 3.
Look at the length of this play. Murray to the 10, to the 5, and he's going to convert it. That's unbelievable.
At times, he can seem like a one-man offense, but you know who really was a one-man show?
Great ability as an athlete.
With 4,928 rushing yards, 5th most all-time, Randall Cunningham played quarterback like a jazz musician with a rubber body, improvising masterpieces from broken plays. In an era where quarterbacks were expected to stay in the pocket, he was asked to do the complete opposite. In 1986, Buddy Ryan took over in Philly. Ryan, a defensive-minded coach, didn't really care about offense. Ryan's only contribution was when he dropped by the quarterback room as Randall was studying plays and said, "Forget all that. Run first, throw second."
Here I am going through trying to learn plays, and then all of a sudden, Buddy Ryan comes in and is like, "I want you to be faster than you even are now." And so he trained me like I was a racehorse. He developed me to be a running quarterback.
Cunningham's ability to extend plays and create on the run made him the prototype for the modern mobile quarterback. Some refer to him as the first true dual-threat quarterback in NFL history. Cunningham could win games single-handedly, bringing a dimension to the quarterback position that had defensive coordinators losing sleep. What made him truly special was his combination of athletic ability and resilience. He took countless hits and still managed to create highlights that seemed impossible. But while Cunningham brought artistry to the position, our next quarterback brought something altogether more: super. At 6'5" and 245 pounds, Cam Newton was often the biggest and strongest player on the field. He changed what we thought possible from the quarterback position.
Newton bends low, takes the snap, short drop, hits the quarterback draw. Newton does somersault for the touchdown.
Oh my goodness, the legend just goes on.
Whether he was powering through on quarterback sneaks, soaring over the pile, or outrunning defensive backs to the end zone, Newton was a weapon that defenses had never seen before.
Newton looking to run it. Newton keeps the legs moving. Newton lunging to the end zone.
In his MVP season in 2015, Newton put it all together in one of the most dominant single seasons of all time. His signature Superman celebration became a weekly occurrence as he made defending the end zone against him nearly impossible. Too fast for linemen, too strong for defensive backs, and too tall to stop on quarterback sneaks, Newton forced defensive coordinators to completely rethink their red zone strategies. His 5,628 rushing yards ranks 3rd all-time, and his 75 rushing touchdowns remains the most ever by a quarterback. But not every mobile quarterback was a physical specimen like Cam. Some just found a way to get it done by any means necessary.
By this time, defensive linemen have lost 5 pounds, the defensive backs have added a half-dozen gray hairs, and Coach Norm Van Brocklin may be sprouting an ulcer.
If Randall Cunningham was the NFL's first true dual-threat quarterback, Fran Tarkington might be the first mobile quarterback in NFL history. His 3,674 rushing yards only ranks 8th all-time, but Tarkington was a trailblazer. Playing in an era when quarterbacks were expected to stand tall in the pocket, Tarkington was considered a freak for using his legs to set up the pass rather than just to run. He didn't have the strongest arm, but his pocket presence was unmatched. At only 6 foot tall, 185 pounds, he often ran out of necessity, and boy could he avoid sacks like no other quarterback before him.
I always hated Tarkington. I really did. I mean, that little wimp would run around out there for hours and hours and hours.
He's one man that we tried desperately to end his career. We tried desperately to get rid of him.
By the time he retired, he held every quarterback record in the books, passing and rushing. But while Tarkington wrote the book on mobile quarterbacking, our next player set it on fire.
There's no one like Michael Vick. No one like Michael Vick.
The fastest human being I've ever seen on football.
Michael Vick was quite simply the most explosive weapon the NFL had ever seen.
He had 2 guys going like this. And he just...
In his prime with the Falcons, Vick was faster than everyone else on the field, and he knew it. He made defenders look foolish, often causing them to crash into each other as they desperately tried to contain him.
Have some running room. Inside the 30. Inside the 20. Vick into the end.
The dogfighting scandal robbed us of seeing him in his full prime, but those first 6 years in Atlanta produced some of the most jaw-dropping highlights in NFL history. With Vick, every play had the potential to turn into a SportsCenter top 10 moment.
He steps up, he's going to run, cuts to the outside. Hang on to your seats, ladies and gentlemen.
Defensive coordinators would spend entire weeks preparing for him, only to watch their carefully crafted schemes fall apart the moment he escaped the pocket. His 173-yard rushing performance against Minnesota may have been topped by Justin Fields in 2022, but Vick still sets the bar for electrifying scrambles. His 6,109 rushing yards remain the most ever by a quarterback. But he's not the most mobile quarterback threat of all time. If Mike Vick is number 2, you know who number 1 is. The most graceful scrambler to ever do it. The epitome of mobility. His play-action bootleg against the Cowboys in 2013 was nothing short of miraculous. The way he fooled the entire defense, gracefully galloping, okay, we can't do this anymore. Let's talk about the real number 1 mobile quarterback in NFL history, Lamar Jackson.
It's a second down and 3. Jackson takes it himself. Look at him dart back and forth. Oh, he broke his ankles. He is Houdini. Unbelievable. I mean, that's Michael Vick in 2004, that play.
Lamar Action Jackson has taken modern quarterback mobility and set it on fire. His 5,661 rushing yards already ranks second all-time, but it's the artistry of his running that sets him apart. While he may not have Vick's raw speed, Jackson's pure mobility and shiftiness is unmatched. Everything moves in slow motion when he has the ball. His jukes look effortless, his cuts leave defenders tackling air, and his pocket presence makes the most chaotic plays look choreographed. The 2-time MVP makes an entire offense that much better, forcing defenses to defend every inch of the field. But numbers can't capture the way he changes the game. Every snap with Jackson becomes a pick-your-own poison for defenses, and they usually choose wrong. The most remarkable thing about Jackson isn't that he's the most elusive quarterback ever, it's that he makes it all look so easy. Pass rushers hesitate, linebackers freeze, and defensive backs hold their breath knowing that one false step means ending up in Jackson's growing highlight reel. And whether we are ready for it or not, ultra-mobile quarterbacks have become the norm in today's NFL. From Tarkington's pioneering scrambles to Jackson's unmatched athleticism, these 10 quarterbacks fundamentally changed how we think about the position. They made the impossible look routine and turned broken plays into highlights we'll talk about for years to come.